If you want to get dessert, now's the time to do it. We're going to start in just a couple minutes. So call for dessert or seconds. We're going to be using the screen behind me, and so Caleb's just going to play a little video for us. For those of you who were not a part of or maybe even here when we made the stained glass that's in the front of the sanctuary, this video is by Eric Miller, who time-lapsed everything for us. So go ahead and play that, Caleb. Thanks, Eric. Just out of curiosity, how many of you glued a piece of glass onto one of those things? Yeah, lots of us. How many of you were not here when that project was taking place? Also, a good bit of us. Yeah. So that happened last year at the beginning of the year, and then they were unveiled during Easter time. So thanks, everybody, for taking time to be a part of this. So each year we have an annual meeting, and this is actually the first time we've done it kind of as a working lunch. The leadership team wanted to try to find a format where more than 30 people would show up. Success! Woohoo! So this is great. Thank you for bringing food and for staying. Today is going to be about three things, kind of framed out in three things. So stories and updates and information. And so that's going to be our time together for the rest of the morning. Our MC is an under the weather, unfortunately, but still. I'm trying to think of the adjectives I want to use. Let's give it up for Jonathan Bowman. Come on up, Jonathan. Jonathan is the chair of our leadership team. If you guys received these little papers when you came in this morning, this is just kind of an overview. This is not exhaustive, but a lot of the main things that we do here, these are the folks who are kind of point people for those things. And so if I miss somebody, please let me know. But it's just a way for you to be able to know kind of who's what and doing what. But Jonathan leads our leadership team. He's going to MC us today.
Thank you all for coming, and looking forward to the stories that we get to hear. We're going to start with home church, and I believe, Jane, you are going to begin us off with that. And we're just probably going to, if I'm too short, wasn't about you in particular, Jane. Go ahead.
So I oversee the home church ministry of our church. A couple things before I have someone share a story about home churches. I want to make sure that you know why we have home churches. They are the primary way that we feel like you can get connected to other people in our church. in a small community. You all just heard Joshua's message about sharing our stories and patient presence with one another. That's something that happens in home church. As we sit with one another, we talk, we share food, we get to know each other, we listen to each other's stories, and as that time goes on, we share more and more of who we are and how Christ is shaping us. So community is the first reason we offer home churches. The second is care. Home churches and our deacons are the primary ways that we want you to be cared for. So, for example, we've had babies that are being born to our church. The first thing we do is we ask the home church leader to set up a meal train that goes to the home church, and then it goes out to the rest of the church body, so that the home church first is providing a few meals. Or if you have someone in your home church who has other needs, whether it be someone is a little bit under the needing to take a break, and so they get some help with lawn care, or there's a million different ways, but that's our primary way of care is through the home church and then through the deacons. They provide additional support. As home church leaders, I ask them to let me know what's going on in the lives of their church so that I can make sure that the deacons also know that, and so we're partnering together. So it's community, it's care, and it's spiritual formation. Most of our home churches talk about the sermon. There's questions in the bulletin every week, and that's what they use as a basis for their conversation. So you don't have to read a book. You don't have to do an in-depth study ahead of time. We come to church, we listen to the message, and we learn and grow together. If you are not in a home church yet and you would like to be, or if you so really feel inspired to start a home church, you need to speak to me for both of those. Just a few stats. We currently have, do you have a slide for this, Caleb? What? Oh, we don't have a slide for it. We have, with a new one starting this month, we have 16 home churches, and that is 89 households from our church that are involved in home church. Right? That is really, really fantastic. I think the percentage of that is very high for a church. And so we mean this. This is an important part of our church life and growth. And so we invite you to be a part of one if you're not already. Joshua asked me to ask somebody who's involved in a home church to share their story. And a couple months ago, I had a conversation with Sarita Mullins, and she shared a story for me about her home church. So I asked Sarita if she would share her story with us this morning.
Our family joined our home church about 2.5 years ago. We joined because we wanted to be more connected with our church family and grow in our faith as we share life together. And that's exactly what we do when our home church gathers. It's just really good to see so many of our home church people here. But we enjoy a meal together, discuss God's word, and we share how we can pray for one another. It's always just been an enriching time. But in the fall of 2024, our family experienced a huge loss, and we had no idea just how much our home church would pour into our family during this time, and in ways that really only the Lord knew that we needed. And so I'd like to share with you about that time. During the fall of 2024, my mom's health started to decline rapidly. A cancer diagnosis in September had progressed her dementia into the end stages. And we experienced months of ups and downs where we stayed hopeful and prayerful. But by November, her medical staff was telling my sisters that this was the end. Now, I had known grief before because my dad passed away in 2017, but this was different. This was sudden. There was a shock, and I just couldn't believe it. I felt as if the floor had been pulled out from under me, and I could not function. All I knew is that I needed to get up to Boston, where I grew up, to be with my mom in her final days and be with my sisters. In the midst of this time, Wade and I still had our 4 kids who needed us. They were 4, 7, 9, and 11 at the time, and they were also grieving their Nana. And doing simple tasks like cooking meals all of a sudden just felt crippling to me and felt paralyzing. I just paralyzed by it all. And Wade and I knew that the best thing was just for me to get to Boston as soon as I could. And I remember reaching out to our home church and just letting them know what was going on and asking them for prayer, because that is what we do. I then drove to Boston with my oldest daughter, Maya, and had the gift of being with my mom till her last breath. And I knew she was with Jesus now and reunited with my dad, but oh, the pain and oh, the shock still of it all. After spending a couple more days in Boston to help with preparations, I drove back down to PA, and I wept the whole ride back. At some point, I heard a phone notification going off. So I pulled over to a rest stop when I could, and I checked my email, and I saw that a meal train had been set up already. And just about all the meals for the next 2 weeks were filled up by our home church and our wonderful deacons. I could not believe it. So I continued my drive now with more tears, but this time my grief was mixed with gratitude, just knowing that basic needs were being met. And since Wade and I eventually would have to drive back up to Boston with the kids for the funeral services, to know that so many dinners would be provided during this time was actually just what we needed. And as if that wasn't enough, within that week of us being in PA, preparing to go back up to Boston, I got another message from our dear home church. And this message said, "Sarita, I am in the area. I will do your laundry for you. Just put it in a bag, set it outside, and I will pick up your laundry." A family of 6, our dirty laundry. And if that wasn't enough of pouring out love, care, support, our home church then let us know, a couple of days later, that they wanted to drop something off for our travels back up to Boston as we were going to the funeral services. And they dropped off this basket filled with activities for the kids to do in the car, snacks for the kids. And if you've got kids, little ones especially, preparing for a trip on top of grief and preparing for services and everything, how did they know? I didn't even ask. In the midst of this basket, we actually ended up bringing this huge gift basket that they brought with the snacks and the gifts, and we brought it all the way up to Boston, and those snacks were actually shared by my kids with their cousins. So that blessing kept going to my nieces and nephews that were also grieving. In this basket also included a self-care little area for me. Because I guess in the midst of my grief, I forgot, too, that I needed to care for myself. And our home church thought of that. Before I end, I will say that once the funeral services were done and we came back to PA, and I was just left with the grief and the shock, our home church continued to reach out and told us that they were going to continue to bring meals for another 2 weeks. Because if you ever go through a grief, everything settles, but you're broken. And they kept giving. Our home church ministries here at this church is a place where you can connect, grow in your faith, and support one another. And during these difficult times in my family's life, our home church carried us in ways in which only the Lord knew we needed. The Lord showed up through the community of our home church, reminding me we were not forgotten, alone, and He was there. And I know many people in this church have walked through many, many difficult times, and they've had their home church or people in this church be there for them. And I just wanted to share that with you, of this impact. So to my little home church people out here that I see, I tried to convey how much you all meant to me. And I hope I can continue to do that and pour into your lives the way that you poured into me as well. So, you knew I'd cry.
Sarita, thank you. That's a beautiful story, and thank you to home churches for all the care that you do. It's a good transition. We're going to talk about some leadership bodies, but home church is an excellent symbol of how, yes, pastors care deeply and do pastoral care, deacons care deeply and do some things, as you'll find out. But in a healthy congregation, care, even leadership, is distributed, right? We're all, I suspect that all of you are perhaps finding pockets within the congregation in which you can relate, enter into care, take responsibility for different things. That said, there is also structure. We have leadership bodies, and the leadership team is one of them. Deacons are one, trustees are another, and want to sort of highlight these and some of the work that they do as an invitation to you to interact with these folks, maybe someday become one of these folks. And we're going to start with the deacons, and so I think we can move to the deacons slide. Here we have, wow, you're not going to be able to read that. Why don't we just go back one slide and I will read that out loud. The current deacons are Curtis and Les Book, Julia Fisher, Paul Gunderman, Diane Miller, and James Mole. But now we can go to the next slide. Here are the next ones, and I think I'm going to invite Jamie up to share a bit about that.
So yes, Stacy and I, those are the current group of deacons that are here to help support the church. One of the most current ways happening right now is one of the slips of papers that you got. We want to support our college students like we have in the past. So we will have, actually, Stacy, can you hold up that bag? We'll have those bags out front in the narthex the next few Sundays to collect gift cards. One of the changes, and it's explained in this piece of paper with the QR code, is we have a lot of college students this year, which is fantastic, but to not have everyone feel like they need to give to everyone, we have a sign-up genius, so you can sign up to support the different college students with places that they like to go, sign up on there, and then drop the gift card and hopefully a note of encouragement for them. And then you'll hear in just a little bit, but there's a little blurb on here that Pastor Brian is going to be going on sabbatical, so we will also be collecting gift cards for Brian to have for while he has his time away from us. So those are two ways that you can help out with the deacons coming up. Thanks.
Thank you, deacons. And yeah, I'd like to do a little better emphasis on a previous slide. If we could just go back to LBIC leadership bodies, what I want to particularly do here is just thank those who have served on these groups before, but have gone off the groups somewhat recently, and just give them a special thank you. So the ones that I listed before, those were people who have been deacons, and we are so thankful for their contribution. Leadership team recently blessed Brittany to leave that group. And trustees, we're grateful for the service that Adam Naramore has done. So just wanted to emphasize that these are always, there's always fluidity in these groups, and we're really thankful for the various ways in which people serve. So now if we could, another group is leadership team. And just wanted to thank the folks that are involved in this, and just want to give a little bit of definition on what the leadership team gets up to, and it varies because really our primary job is to meet monthly and engage with the pastors around whatever is coming our way as a congregation, whether that be purchasing the Compassion House or just mundane matters of HR, like dealing with rising insurance rates, or as Joshua mentioned a little bit earlier, you know, part of the gift of being part of a denomination is we get some rhythms as part of the denomination. One of those is a 5-year review of congregation and lead pastor that we're currently in the midst of, a term review. But also, as Jamie mentioned, you know, as we plan for sabbaticals, leadership team is involved in that along with many of the rest of you. Of course, we talk about finances, but I also want to just extend the invitation is that we listen. And our listening is a lot better if you're talking. And so just invite you to note the people who are on leadership team and feel free to bend their ear of things that you just, maybe a story that you have, or if it's something that you really just want to be, that you want to express that you're thankful for the way church is shaped, or maybe you have a concern you want to share. We are all ears, and also, yeah, we do put up that leadership team table sometimes out in the foyer, but you are welcome to chat with these folks anytime. I did just want to mention, yeah, great. The Senior Pastor the 5-year term review, that is in process and wrapping up. We already heard Joshua commit to another 5 years. I was so grateful to hear that. But it's an opportunity to review both the congregation and the pastor with our denominational leadership sort of shepherding the process. Our bishop, Brian Hoke, is involved with that and is coming to our leadership team to discuss that. We took a slice of the congregation and did some survey, so it was a lot of different inputs go into this, and it really ends up being a fun time of both celebrating who we are and also asking ourselves, who do we want to be and who do we want to be becoming? I believe Joshua is going to share a little bit at this time about leadership.
Oh, by the way, somebody's missing a binky. Caroline! All right, you can get that later. You don't need to get that. Wanted to just give a brief update on youth pastor. So as you know, we announced at the end of last year, we've been communicating this for a couple months, we're in search of a youth pastor. And so far to date, we've had 3 conversations internally. And then there's also been a resume that's come in just last week externally. And so we're in process with that. There's really not much more to say than that at this point in time, but just wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of where we are in that process. So we had, the best case scenario is like somebody starts probably in June-ish in realistic terms. We had budgeted for March if a miracle would happen, but that's kind of where we are in terms of process and in hiring youth pastor at this point. So.
All of this stuff and every person is equally important, but if you're like me, sometimes it's the really mundane matters that are the most exciting. And so we're going to have a couple updates here that I'm really excited about, and they almost all touch the trustees. So we're going to have Tucker come up. Tucker Gobilski is one of the trustees. We'll be sharing. Is Tucker one of the trustees? Yes. Yes. Sorry, I didn't want to push anyone into a role that they weren't quite yet ready for. Tucker's going to come up and share a little bit, and we'll have some others after that as well. So just exciting, sort of some of the facility things that we know because leadership team has been listening, that you all are very curious about as well. So, Tucker.
All right. All right. So yes, I am a trustee, but yes. All right, so you can go to the next slide, I believe that. So you've all seen our sign. This is an old picture. So this is actually 4 years old, but still it's seen better days. Let's just leave it at that. So we kind of had an opportunity, and we've gotten some help along the way, and I'll kind of share that in a minute, to come up with a new sign for the church that better represents who we are. And this kind of looking at a new sign gave us the opportunity to come up with something that might a little bit better fit the architecture of the building. And if we go to the next picture. So you'll kind of see in the sign that we ended up coming up with, you kind of see the pitch of the roof where the spire sticking up and kind of the vertical, the brick structures in the sanctuary there. You'll kind of see that as we go to the next picture. So without further ado, this is kind of our planned updated sign. So, and it's been helpful and thankful that Ryan developed our new logo where we could kind of apply this to the new sign. And then I need to say a big thank you to Alan Landis. He also owns the company Signorama, and he's been very helpful in helping us get this created. The original sign, we've had multiple delays of trying to get a new sign, and some of that was based around some challenges with the township, where to put it, could we even have a sign on Fruitville? But thankfully, they've helped us get all that figured out. And if you go ahead to the next slide, please. In addition to the roadside sign, which is probably going to move the white rectangle that you see at the bottom here, just below the parking lot near the gym. That's going to be roughly the new placement for a sign. We needed to get it out of the right-of-way of the road and more on our church property. So that's a little bit more up the embankment. But in addition to the roadside sign, they also offered to help us with some wayfinding to help with communication and direction around the church. And there'll be a series of wayfinding signs throughout the property. They're a little hard to see, but the church house will have a sign. Yes, you're pointing, so we'll start with that one. So if someone who enters through the Fruitville Pike entrance will see a sign that will direct them to the main entrance and the office around the front of the building and the gymnasium. And then as we go to the one just up from the little walkway to the in front of the gym there, there'll be some additional wayfinding signs. And those will be more similar to the ones on the bottom left, where they'll have arrows that direct you to the different parts of the church. And then in addition, on Harrington Drive, we'll also have a main entrance sign, like the bottom right, on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, we'll also have a directional sign as well, just to help visitors coming into the property and just help them get around. And then there's one more sign over the church house, so just anyone who hadn't attended an event at the church house before, just help identify it. It would be kind of at the back of the driveway. So, yeah, that's mostly the good news. So right now it's looking at, hopefully they're still setting the final install dates, but it's close. So it's probably going to be early April sometime, mid-April is kind of what it's looking like. So it's exciting. We'll have some visuals and communication. So thank you.
We continue on some exciting topics with Eric, I believe, is agreeing to talk to us about our next topic, right, Eric? Thank you.
I'm not sure which problem I wanted to address first, the sign or the men's bathroom upstairs, but we're doing both this year, I hope. So I realize half of you might not know how small the men's bathroom is. Well, it's half of what you're used to. So the current situation up there is it's very tight. The men's bathroom is only about 8 feet wide. It's half the size of the women's bathroom, and it is very insufficient. So we're coming up with a new project that really has 3 parts. What you're seeing here is the layout of a new bathroom. It's a little hard to decipher here, but what is happening is we're pushing the current wall that's in the women's bathroom out into that meeting space that's adjoining the library, pushing that wall basically out to where the hallway ends and that door is at today in the hallway, and then splitting that space in half and making 2 much nicer and larger bathrooms. We're working through some questions with the township right now, what might be required as far as ADA compliance. We have talked to a few different contractors, and we're getting help and advice from them. So that's the high-level project for the bathroom. It's going to be funded by the Future Fund and the rental income that we experience from renting this space, but we're still working through all of the budgetary numbers there. The other 2 parts that we're tacking on to the scope of this project is to put an automatic opener on the main entrance, which will include a whole new door, and we're working through what that looks like. It's actually an odd-sized door. So we're determining if we need to have two doors that open, or it can just be one wide one, and what would work best and what looks best aesthetically. And then the family bathroom that's immediately inside of the front entrance will also get a makeover and an automatic opener. So it improves accessibility to all those spaces much more. So, and that's a little rendering of what it might look like. If you have questions, you can ask me or any other trustees. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric and trustees, for looking at that. And then just to be clear, there's bathrooms, and then there was also exterior doors. Those of us who use the men's room probably only think about the joy of getting a new door in there for reasons. But these were actually external doors, not necessarily connected with a bathroom. One of the exciting things that we all get to be part of and supportive in is the refugee welcome team. So I'm going to invite Ben and Lindsay up at this time to share a bit about that.
Hello,
We are Ben and Lindsay. I'm the Ben.
I'm Lindsay, in case you were wondering.
So it is such a joy to be part of a large team of so many of you welcoming refugees here to Lancaster. In 2024, the U.S. relocated 100,034 refugees, and we received 2 here on our property. So just over this way, if you're new, the church house, as it's creatively named, has a space on the top.
That's the Compassion House. They both start with C. That's Compassion. That's
But church house is this way, right?
Church house is that way.
Okay, all right. Oh, man.
It's very disorienting
This way.
down here.
Church house this way.
No, it's that way.
No. Oh, man. We're a mess. This way. 18 months ago.
So, this is not in the script. Get back in the script.
I'm getting there. This is my part. 18 months ago, a family from Nicaragua, a family of 5, arrived here, and their welcome team, we have no idea what happened to them. They disappeared, and 7 people from this church said, we'll jump in. So they weren't trained, they didn't know the plan, but they've done incredible work. 7 people from here for this amazing family from Nicaragua. Then, 15 months ago, over here at the Compassion House, a family of 9 from Afghanistan arrived, and 27 people on a welcome team were a part of that group that welcomed them here in an amazing way. Pastor Joshua this morning talked about patient presence, and that is what we have had the opportunity to provide. And it has been beautiful and also sometimes incredibly challenging. So we want to give you some quick statistics about both the beauty and the challenge associated with these 2 families.
So, first of all, volunteers have driven to more grocery stores, dental visits, and doctor's appointments than we could possibly add up.
We've given close to 220 rides to English classes.
Assisted in at least 30 trips to the church's food pantry.
14 people have been enrolled in school and English classes.
We've supplied 10 birthday cakes.
9 people have received green cards.
6 people have been employed in 16 jobs.
There have been 6 car donations or purchases in 2 car accidents.
There have been 4 visits to the emergency room.
There have been 3 deaths in the families that they left behind in their home countries.
There have been 2 surprise marriage engagements and 1 surprise wedding in a foreign country.
There have been 2 major surgeries.
And we, as their friends, have been served more cups of tea and coffee and Afghan bread and rice and plates of food than we can remember.
And this isn't all just a year and a half ago. This is right now. In this past week, Our WhatsApp thread for the welcome team for the Compassion House had 77 messages, and 5 people gave personal visits to the family just this week.
Now, we would like to rewind just a little bit and say, well, we'll start. If you've had contact with either one of the families in the last month, would you please raise your hand and keep it up?
If you have ever donated clothing to the families, raise your hand.
And keep it up. If you've ever been to the training or one of the meetings for a welcome team, raise your hand.
If you've ever donated labor to the Compassion House or housewares for the Compassion House, raise your hand.
And if you've ever prayed for either of these families, please raise your hand. Now raise them higher. Come on. That's a lot of hands, guys. This is all of us. Give yourselves a hand. Some of this has been structured and by the request of our church leadership, but some of this has been creative and absolutely spontaneous, like making seasonal wreaths for their doors, or an absolute stranger from this church coming up to one of the homes with a spice cake. I was reminded of this in New Year's, when the people who own Tiny Town and throw the children's best New Year's Eve party in Lancaster gave us tickets to take the younger children of these families. I got to go with them, and I got to see one of these Afghan girls happier than I have ever seen her in 15 months, dancing her heart out with glow paint on her face. And this is all because someone said, I'm not in a season where I could commit to a welcome team, but it's what I have and I want to share.
We have been able to establish friendships with these families, and it's up to them how that friendship gets expressed in the months and years to come. So many of you have given not just things or just done it because you've had to, but established real relationship with these families. In 3.5 months, the next step of this process is for these families to move out and find other homes, other apartments, likely in the Lancaster area. 3.5 months doesn't seem like a lot of time because there's some significant challenges yet to come, but that's what we're looking at the end of June. We're imagining packing up a U-Haul and helping the families move to their next home.
So keep your ears open when we put out the call for hands to help with that. You know, as a church, we've been part of expanding capacity in this community to welcome newcomers to Lancaster. But we've not only housed 2 families, but you all have helped to fund the salary for a new welcome coordinator in Lancaster who's based at the Parish Resource Center to pick up some of the work that had to be let go when government funding ended for Church World Services. Some of you have also begun volunteering at the Welcome Desk, a position that we've helped to create at Neighbors Community Center and Cafe. So this is clearly part of our DNA, and even when these families move out, this is not going to end. We will host more families when the time is right and supply more welcome teams, but I'm encouraged to know that we all will continue to express our relational and justice-oriented values wherever we live at our neighborhoods and schools and workplaces. So we hope this encourages and inspires you, and our pastors and Ben and I are also available to you to brainstorm and to discern where God might be leading you in this. Oh, we skipped a line. We actually scripted this, guys. We don't usually script ourselves. Our welcome teams have been featured in a newly published book by our own Phil Smith. So Check it out. It is on Amazon. It's called The Way Back to One Another. All right, look it up or come to Ben and I if you want to take a picture of it and read it. It's really encouraging that we've been part of demonstrating this way of doing community together. So, big hand to all of you. Thanks.
Where's Phil? He'll even sign your book if you get him one, I bet. Absolutely. This about wraps everything up, I think, right? I just want to riff off of something Ben and Lindsay said, and maybe perhaps the theme of the morning. I love what they described in terms of people perhaps not being able to be a part of what we're formally doing together. And so sometimes we think about being a part of what we're doing as a church in an organized way. And so we're going to do this together, and we're going to have maybe this focus for this time, whatever it may be. But what I love about what they shared is that each of us, I believe, has something to give. And you don't need structure. It's just there. All you need is a willingness to be able to do it. Just do it. You don't need a big program. We don't need a big program or anything like that. Whatever God has given you, and whenever God chooses to kind of stir your spirit to give it, do so. We'll bless it. We might not create a program around it, but that's not the point. Like, we want to, part of our philosophy is you guys live where you live. You work where you work. You know who you know. You can be a blessing where you are. You can be a conduit of God's grace where you are. And each of you have something to share. And so be empowered to share it. Be empowered to share it. May the Spirit stir you to do so. Thank you all for being here this afternoon, for taking time. Hopefully this was helpful. It's very encouraging to just have so many of you here and being a part of this together. So I'm going to pray, and then if you are willing to help tear down, that would also be great. If you can't do it, that's fine. But that's what we'll do as soon as I close in prayer. So let me pray for us. Jesus, thank you for this community of faith. Thank you for the ways that you're working here. Thank you for the things that we hear about and for the things that we don't hear about. Thank you for the quiet ways that so many go about sharing the love of Jesus with the people that are around them. Continue to cultivate that among us, Lord, that we might be a patient presence with one another, and that we might live as a patient presence in the communities that we live and that we serve. And in so doing, be the light and the presence of Christ in the world around us. Thanks for these brothers and sisters. Thanks for the gift of this place and these people. And we give you thanks for all these things through Christ our Lord. Amen. I am going to make one suggestion. Let's tear down before we get the kids. Huh? Brilliant. Okay?